Hello. Oh boy. Well, we still have our microphone problems, and I'm hearing reverb, so I'm taking off my headphones. And it's been a very interesting day, sort of a technically disastrous day, but we're not alone because a lot of people today are having technical difficulties. So the music is very soft, it seems to me today, even though it's turned up loud. We did a Windows update yesterday, and every time that happens, something gets messed up. So I'm wondering if I need to turn up the music a little bit from the music end to see if that makes it any louder. Not that we want it terribly loud, but we do want to hear it a little bit. And if I turn it all the way up, it seems sort of loud, but maybe it's not loud enough. Let me put my headphones out to hear that. I don't know. It's very weird. And then I tried playing around with my microphone. Oh, that's quite loud. Okay, so that's too loud. So I'll turn this down. Because every time you do a Windows update, now that should be lower. If it's not lower, let me know. Every time you do a Windows update, all of my audio in the Streamlabs is still there, but it doesn't work. So I have to delete it and put it back, which I'm now sort of used to doing. But I'm going to turn this music down here too, because it looks like it is a little loud. But it's hard to hear when you can't wear your headphones. Knowing what's really going on and what's happening with the music. And then, and so the things I was trying to see if I could hear something different in my headphones didn't make any difference. Nothing happened. I don't know what's happened. Something's happened, but it's nothing that I'm controlling or I am in charge of. And then we started the stream at our usual time with our usual flair and panache. And about 5 minutes into the stream, the whole thing, as we technically call it, barfed. You get the blue and purple screen with the guy holding his head, which I'm wearing in the shirt, holding his head. Why? And then you wait, for a minute and see if the stream is going to recover, because technically it should recover. It should resync and just keep going. But then you think, who wants a minute or two of a guy holding his head on the Twitch side? And I looked here, everything was good on my side. So I stopped the stream, deleted the 7 minutes or whatever we had been on. Waited about 5 minutes and then restarted the stream, and then you hold your fingers. And you want to say, well, let's see what happens. Is it going to barf again? Is it going to go live? Well, the music's a little bit messed up. My headphones are a little bit messed up. I have no idea how to fix any of it. I have no idea what's going on or even what I'm doing here. But I'm happy to be here. Happy you're here. So we try to figure out what's happening, and I really have no idea. And it's sort of disheartening in a way to try to get all amped up to do your show and you're ready to go, and then that guy happens. But that's part of it. That's part of the delight of doing a live stream. You never know if it's going to blow up in your face or not. And you hope it won't. There's always that possibility. And then the question becomes, do you go back on and do a part 1 and part 2 of the show, or do you just stop and, go back another day? I don't know. So, who else is having a bad day? Well, one of them is, I guess, Facebook. As you may know, we are involved in this alpha test. It's not a beta test. It's an alpha test of NFTs. And we're trying to do interviews, and you're supposed to put up 2 posts a week, and day 1, you had to put up 1. And it's very straightforward. You can't see the collection. Your collection is hidden from the world until you decide to share it with the world. Okay. And you can only show one NFT at a time. I've asked for clusters of NFTs. And I get asked, what does that mean? What's a cluster? Well, not a cluster F, a cluster N. FT. So you can show more than one FT at a time. So you could have 2 or 3 or 4 and talk about them. I don't think that's happening anytime soon. So we did our big interview with Igba. And it was very interesting. He's back in Russia. He doesn't speak or really write English, so everything I type to him, he puts through software translation, reads it in Russian, then types in Russian, translates it back into English, and then copies and pastes it back to me. And that's how we communicate. And it seems to be working just fine. So I'm all excited to publish our Q&A with Igba, and he promoted it himself on Twitter yesterday, which when I first saw, I said, oh no, that's tempting. The gods. And sure enough, the gods were tempted and they crushed us. Because I tried twice to publish the video version first of the Igba NFT with our interview. And our interview was shorter than the one with Ishita, so I know it's not too long. Publish, post, nothing happens. Everything just disappears. And I go back, I refresh my page, nothing's there. And then I remembered when I did Jana's movie video thing, that I got a little note saying, well, we have to process your video, we'll let you know when it's ready, which is standard, normal Facebook procedure for any sort of video. Like my podcasts, when they are put up on Facebook, they get processed and then they become an audio movie, not an audio file. And that usually takes like 10, 15 minutes. So I waited 5 minutes to see if the post from Igba's NFT would show up. Nothing. Waited another 5 minutes, did a refresh. Nothing. So I thought, okay, this isn't good. Maybe it's the video. Because there was a video bug that I reported and I guess was fixed, where I went in and edited Jana's original ASL NFT video, just to say click on the video and you'll get more information about the NFT, and the whole thing got deleted. And in the same moment, before I knew things were getting deleted, I did the same sort of edit on Ishita's original NFT, saying, hey, click on it. And that didn't get deleted, but the edit didn't take. So I reported both those to Facebook. So I thought, okay, I'm going to try again with Igba, because I know he's waiting, and it's getting sort of late in the day. And I know he wants to go to bed. So I thought, okay, I'll change the intro, and I'll make it not the animated version, but the original image. And then maybe later we can show the video, because it's basically the same NFT, sort of. And I tried that. Same thing. Post. Nothing happens. Blank screen. Go back to the real page. Refresh. Force refresh. Different browsers. Check. Phone check. It's not there. So I reported it to the Facebook, and they replied back and said, okay, the edit thing with the video was a bug. Thank you for reporting that. We fixed it. And then I said, by the way, and then that's where we had to talk about the cluster NFTs. And I said, well, I just ran into a new problem. 2 updates have disappeared. I don't know what happened to them. I didn't get an error message. Facebook is very good about telling you what you're doing wrong. And they replied right away and said, we'll look into it. So I told Igba, I said, look, we're having a little trouble. So when I hear back, I'll let you know. About 2 hours later, I get an email from Facebook saying, well, we don't know what happened. What were you doing when you tried this? Were you on your phone? Were you on the desktop? What were the steps that you did? What are you doing? Can you send us screenshots or a video of what the issue is? We don't understand what NFT it is. So I said, okay. So I sent him screenshots of the two video and image from IGMA and said, I'm not doing anything special. I'm on the web. This is the step. Click on the NFT, share, type in the copy, and click post. That's all. It's nothing special, nothing. It's what I've done now 3 times before without an issue. And they said, okay, thanks, we'll look into it. That was yesterday, maybe around 6 p.m. our time, 3 p.m. California time. I didn't hear anything. So I wrote to IGMA this morning and said, look, this is an alpha test. It's not even a beta test. And as I said to my Twitter super followers, look, alpha testing is 100% worse than beta testing. So get used to it. And IGMA was like, okay, I understand. And he's an artist. He's went to medical school, I guess. It's part of our interview. And he understands these things happen. I just feel a little terrible that he announced it to everybody yesterday, and I replied, and we were all ready to go, and then it didn't happen. Because I know he wants it to happen, and I want it to happen. So maybe today, maybe not today. We just don't know. Hey, what else is broken? Well, things that shouldn't really get broken sometimes get broken. It's never great to wake up to news from a business that you're doing business with, OpenSea. But what can you do? It's not really OpenSea. This is someone that they trusted, and someone that they trusted has betrayed them and betrayed us. An employee of our email vendor, Customer.io, misused their employee access. Oh no, it's Gordon. He got that email too. I know. And share email addresses with an unauthorized external party. Now that right there seems to suggest to me that there was some benefit of sharing this information. Misused is the key word. Not there was a mistake, there was a phishing attack. Misuse their credentials with an unauthorized party. That's really going to be bad. Email addresses provided to OpenSea by users or newsletter subscribers were impacted, let's say affected. But this is now good information that they're sharing that we'll just share to be on the record on how to be cautious with these kind of terrible break-ins. If we believe your email address was impacted, you'll receive an email from the domain OpenSea.io. I did receive that email. Please stay cautious. Malicious actors may use this information to impersonate OpenSea in email phishing attempts. Here are our email safety recommendations. We will only send you emails from the domain OpenSea.io. And that's going to confuse a lot of people who don't know anything right there because they don't know what .io means. They want to know a .com address, maybe a .org address, every once in a while a .net address. But .io right there looks fishy to them, which is maybe a good thing. Be aware of attempts to impersonate OpenSea through slight variations of our domain name, like below: OpenSea.io, OpenSea.org, OpenSea.xyz. Right one is OpenSea.io. Very confusing. Now, why they don't own OpenSea.org and OpenSea.xyz, I don't know. Professor Gordon says, are you saying not everyone knows about the fun game platform itch.io? I'm saying that, yes. And they've probably not played Slither.io either, which we have played on this stream before, and I enjoyed quite a bit. Might have to check out that link. Number 2, never download anything from an OpenSea email. Now that sounds really scary. Or as Gordon calls it, itchy-o. Very cute. Number 3, check the URL of any page linked in an OpenSea email. We will only include hyperlinks to email.opensea.io. Well, do people know what hyperlinks are? I'm old and I was told they were called hot links, but maybe that's old. Number 4, never share your seed phrase with anyone. We'll never ask for it. Now that's good because that's sort of hidden. Most people don't even know what a seed phrase is. And OpenSea are being very smart to not explain what it is or where to find it because people will then give it to the bad people because it's human nature for some people to not want to understand things. Number 5, we'll never ask you to sign a wallet transaction from our emails. Now that's tricky because if you click on a bad link and it takes you somewhere and asks you to sign and you're used to signing, look out. Number 6, always review anything you sign with your wallet carefully. When in doubt, do not sign. That is the number one thing. Having access to your wallet takes like 2 or 3 clicks on stuff and approvals to make it happen. Now, if you're very active, sometimes you can just get lazy and go click, 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 click to get it over with and not pay attention to really what you're clicking on. But if you're new or super cautious, you'll just check everything every step of the way and make sure that it's right. Number 7, do not interact with emails and files sent by strangers. It's stranger danger. Customer.io's investigation is ongoing, and we've reported this incident to law enforcement. Read more in our blog. Yeah. So here's the reaction from the real world to the OpenSea breach. People are not being very kind about it, but it's not really their fault. But they're going to get the hit for it. Now this person says, my wallet got drained of all my NFTs. What now? When compensation? Now, do you believe that person? I don't know. And as other people in the thread say, hey, if you're not, reading stuff and checking on it, that's your fault. Another person said, I had 9 of mine stolen. They just said there was nothing they could do. They only flagged them for suspicious content, so the person can't sell them now. But what good did that do me? I'm still out. You could even see them being transferred in UTC time. But yet, I'm in Colorado. And then here you go. Next time, pay attention and don't go clicking any link in an email. Verify where the email came from. Very few people do. They don't know how to even read an email header, and they're harder to find. In the old days, the email header was included by default in your email. And it's very ugly and very tedious to look at it. People didn't want to look at it. They want it hidden. And now in some email clients, you can show headers, but people don't know how to read them, really. So many steps these days people should be taking before opening and clicking random links in email, and yet people still do it. Next time, don't sell my email, please. Now, come on now. They didn't sell your email. Keeping your wallet safe isn't their responsibility. Now, there you go. The truth is sometimes painful. So, sounds like you need some help using the internet in general. Don't click on links without checking the source. Don't keep valuables in a hot wallet in your browser. Right, you want to keep all your good stuff in a cold wallet that is not connected to the internet. 3, learn from your mistakes and don't blame others. And then the person who's trying to get compensation from OpenSea says, are you freaking serious? Everyone should blame huge companies that can't keep our email safe. Are you for real? Are you some kind of a bot? Now I have to know what somebody said. What's the reply to that? Your compensation is this life lesson. Oh, now that's sweet. Oh, now we might be offended here, but I'll go for it. Still a chance of recovery. And then I see this a lot where people recommend other people to get their stuff back that's been stolen with an NFT. I don't think I would ever do that. Commissioner Gordon says about once a month, ITS at my work sends us an email that is a test to see if we are paying attention. Oh, I like that, actually. If we are, we report the email to ITS as spam. And then a pop-up comes up and congratulates us on catching the bad email. Well, that's very smart. I like that a lot. More companies should do that, especially universities. So now there are people who will say, well, we can recover all of your NFTs for a fee. I don't know how they do it. To me, it seems like they're doing things you shouldn't be doing. Like tracking down the person who stole your NFTs and then stealing it back by breaking into their wallet or something. It's all very shady. But this is the new Wild West. It's new and it's scary. And you better bring a gun. Maybe not a real gun, but you got to have some firepower behind you to beat back these people who want to steal all your stuff. And now we're taking a very brief blood pressure break to return in a moment. And we are back from break. I'm David Bowles. This is Bowles.tv, BOLES.tv, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. on the Eastern Seaboard. Now, the interesting thing about the OpenSea breach is they didn't tell us to change our password, which is usually what they always tell you to do. Any kind of breach, change your password immediately. So I guess that's good. I don't know. I think it's all a little strange, but it's always a good idea to change your password every once in a while. But I guess that the danger is not really in the password, but in what they fear you're going to do by giving access to your wallet. It's a hard thing for people to understand. They think you install something and approve something once, it's good forever. And that's a good thing with both MetaMask and other software wallets that deal with NFTs. You always have to authenticate it. Put in your password, give permission via your phone, whatever. That what you're doing is what you really want to have happen. And some people are too scared to click yes and keep going, and other people just close their eyes and click because they're too scared. Now, a very interesting thing I was not expecting to see on CNN yesterday, last night actually, talking about the Roe and the abortion thing and how really weird it's all getting. And a major hospital in Kansas City said we are no longer providing medical alternatives, preventive alternatives, abortions, meaning the day after pill. And we're just being cautious about this because we know that's what's coming into law. And there was such outrage that they flippity-floppity back and said, okay, we will. We'll still offer it for now. But it's coming. And they did this long-form interview with this woman who just happened to be from the great state of Nebraska. It's not for everyone. And she was a strange person, let's put it that way. Green hair, overdone eyeshadow, eyeliner, tattoos on her legs. And I mention this because that doesn't fit really in traditional Nebraska. I thought she was quite lovely. But I know where she lives and I know the people around her. And she doesn't fit. She's married. And she has a daughter. And she was telling her story of her second pregnancy that went wrong. And she was very, very effective. Gordon says, I guess it really isn't for everyone. It's really sad. It used to be a great place to live. And I'm lucky I was there at that point in time, because it's all very different now. And this woman had a son. And his organs were growing outside of his body. And she and her husband were thrilled that they were having a second child when they found out she was pregnant. And they were devastated when they found out that this child would not live probably 1 minute after being born, if that even happened. So she was either 12 weeks from delivery or something like that, but it was considered a late-term abortion. And her doctor said, you cannot keep this baby inside of you because it will probably kill you. It's inside out. And her doctor said, and you can't do it here. And this was like 6 months ago, before any of this Supreme Court stuff happened. And the woman said, what do you mean I can't do it here? She said, well, it's considered under Nebraska law a late-term abortion. And the woman said, well, now what do I do? Where do I go? And her doctor said, you have to go to Colorado. And she did. And she found a doctor who took care of her. And she said, I didn't think I'd have to be burying my unborn son. She came back and her young daughter said, where's my baby brother? And the mother said, well, he's not coming home. And then the part they really didn't explain that must have been really brutal is they were in this woman's home and she showed that they had made handprints and fingerprint and footprints of this child who was medically aborted to save the life of the mother and because the child was not viable. And she said his ashes are on the mantle and those are his hand and footprints. And you're thinking, wow. There's no winners in any of this. Devastation. And how do you remove a late-term abortion body from a mother who doesn't want to lose her baby? And then the point of all of this was she wants to have another child. And she's terrified now of getting a positive pregnancy test. Because she said, what if this happens again? Then what do I do? Where do I go? Is it going to be safe for me to continue on? Can I still go to Colorado? Or is the Supreme Court going to force me to give birth to a child that will not live for one day and risk my life in doing it? And that's how the interview ended. And this wasn't just like a 2-minute, 3-minute thing. This was like a 10-minute interview with this woman. And she's weeping with her bright green hair the entire time. And you see her beautiful daughter and her husband. And you are reminded that most of the women who need abortions are married and they have kids already. So these are not, sluts on the street or sexual misconduct. These are real people who have real lives and real wishes and dreams and don't want to have a late-term medical abortion. And my fear is that we're talking to this elderly doctor in Colorado who is one of the few places in the region who does late-term abortions. And he was saying these are a medical necessity. Religion cannot play a part in this. This is science. This is viability of people, mother and child. And the only thing I could think of, I'm fearful for his life. Because there are people over the years in the extreme right wing of the Republican Party who murder abortion doctors, thinking that if they murder enough of them, they will scare them into submission and stop them from what they believe is baby killing. It's really an untenable situation and an impossible thing to solve. And the interesting thing is Donald Trump knows this. It's his doing. He set this up. And he said, this is bad for the GOP in the suburbs where the soccer moms live. This is really bad. And then now he's taking credit for it, but not directly. It was God's will, is what Donald Trump says. Sure. We do live in frightening times with very real conundrums of living. And that woman was the perfect person to talk about this conflict. And I hope she's okay. Yesterday, we talked a little bit about urban renewal, especially where we live near Journal Square. And a person was outraged that they're taking down all the trees, these beautiful trees, asking where's the homeless going to live? And they went down and took a picture of it on street level, not from up above where I was taking my pictures yesterday. They said this is what they call the destruction of the Journal Square Plaza. And they're building it into something beautiful, but still there are at least 10 trees that have been destroyed. And other people said, that's part of it. Architecture, they know what they're doing. Gave us a link that we'll take a look at in a moment. And everyone is complaining in the group about this. This is let me see if I can get a better, the picture of Christopher Columbus. This is not the World War I memorial. That's the round thing on the ground that they're trying to cover up. They want that out. They think it's ridiculous. The quote is dumb. And I guess we're over Columbus Day now as a progressive nation. And here's a bigger, better picture of what I was showing you yesterday. This is the architectural drawing of what that plaza is going to become. And you can see there are a lot of trees. They're going to put the trees back. This was all the taxi parking. This is where all the homeless used to hang out. This is where the Christopher Columbus statue is, and I don't see it, but maybe they're hiding it behind a tree. I guess it'll depend on how much outrage there is. And then this here is the World War I memorial. Now, there are slabs of slate that are in the ground with people's names, dates. It's very touching. I don't know if they're going to say them. I looked out the window today and they put cones all around that part of the memorial, I guess, saying don't run over it with a bulldozer. And this looks like it's some kind of water thing, so maybe they're going to make a little water memorial there, which would be very cool if they are so inclined to actually do these things, because I find these architectural drawings turn out to be about 50% right. Because they decide to add something, but usually they decide to take something away because they don't have the money anymore. Here's a link from Al Gordon. Young Gordon. NYPD apparently has time for this. Undercovers posing as mailmen. Working on Broadway. That's interesting. Seeing as a FedEx guy and an Amazon guy. And what exactly are they doing? Oh, they're trying to fare jumpers? Is that what they're doing? I have unlimited, zero problems swiping someone through if they need it. If someone is standing outside a turnstile, I'll try to be discreet and signal if they need a swipe. I kind of wonder at the intent of this post. Well, on the one hand, I can accept that for some fares might be too expensive. Gordon says, finding fare jumpers. We have another story coming up about busking in the subway. Interesting. Just pay the $2.75. That's very interesting. And why would they choose FedEx and Amazon for this. I'm sure they're going to get a letter saying, please don't use our logo and our outfits. To try to capture fare evaders. And my goodness, there's so many problems on the subway. Homeless people on the subway. That affects ridership and fares. So people trying to skip out on $2.75 is really nothing. It's busy work. The person who wrote, Gordon says, just pay it, has never had an empty stomach, I guarantee it. Yeah, it's very true. Now, there are some fare jumpers who are just jerks, but there are other people who need help. And I have swiped people through the subway and on the path because I pay per ride. It's not an unlimited pass that I use. And I can click in 10 people in a row if I want to because it's per fare. Now, the unlimited fare rides are a little different because there's a time limit on it. Because they don't want you swiping in 10 people. If you're paying per ride, they don't care if you swipe in 10 people. But usually I think it's like 10 minutes to make sure that you get in, you do your thing, and then you're going to the next station and you swipe. But at the same station, swiping twice in a row usually does not work. And we know this because people get caught unaware. They swipe, they go in, past the turnstile, and then they say, oh no, I forgot my umbrella. I forgot my phone at work. So they leave, and they come right back, and they are denied access because it's too soon for you to swipe again at this turnstile, at this stop. So you have to wait like 10 or 15 minutes, and then you can go through. Gordon says, I always swipe people through. I keep my head up when leaving the subway and can tell when someone is looking for a swipe. 15 minutes was my experience for a timeout. There you go. That's good. So that's good. So Gordon is coming out. He's done with his ride. He's leaving the subway. So he didn't swipe at that station. And there are people who need to get in, and he swipes them in as he leaves, and they go in. Fabulous. That's how you do it. Yeah. And speaking of mailmen, I'm reminding myself of this. There's a U.S. Postal Service group on Reddit. And they are warning each other, saying, if the police in these red states try to stop you, mail person, and search your bag or search your truck, which I guess is going on, looking for mail order abortion drugs, that is a violation of federal law. You cannot let them do it. You cannot let them search your bag or search your truck. And some other postal people in that group said, well, I've gone through this before when they're looking for contraband. And I was always taught that the rule was I can open the back of my truck so they can look in. They cannot touch anything. They cannot enter my truck. They cannot put their hands on boxes or envelopes or any parcel. And then others still said, absolutely not. They pull me over. I say, you have to get a warrant from the postal inspector because this is federal property, government property, and you have no right to search it. I mean, this was a long conversation in Reddit. It was a fascinating read. So this tells you how serious these people are about controlling the active choice of a woman to live her life, even if she's married with children in the great state of Nebraska. Very painful. And there was another story the other day. We talked about this. A woman in, I think it was Texas. The Supreme Court decision came down. The abortion clinic said, sorry, we can't do it now. And the next day, her husband worked. She had no child care. She loaded her 3 kids into a car and drove, I believe, 6 hours to Virginia. And she had to take her kids with her because no one would take her kids. And she's married with 3 children. And something happened with the birth control and she got pregnant. And she said, we can't afford another kid. We can't have 4 kids. And Texas said, we don't care. No. And she got her abortion in Virginia, got back in her car with her 3 kids, and drove back the 6 hours to Texas. So that's why people who know and care say, look, these laws are not going to apply to the Ivanka Trumps. Her friend said on Twitter that she had an abortion when she was in high school. Why aren't you speaking up about this? This directly affects you. Well, rich people who are connected, this isn't going to touch them. It's the people who have 3 kids and who are stuck in Texas with no way out and no babysitter and can only afford gas to and from Virginia and can't even stay the night in a hotel. That's who this is going to affect. Poor people. And the life of the mother does not matter. The container does not matter. It's only what's inside the container that has value. Weird. Now we're taking a brief blood pressure break. Returning in a moment. And we're back from break, and I put my headphones on again. I don't know what's going on with that. It's all habit. And this is Boles.tv, BOLES.tv. Hey! Oh, I forgot to do my thing over here, which I try to always check before we start up again. Make sure everything is looking right, streaming right. Yes, so far. And I just can't get over that woman of the Nebraska who was carrying a baby who was inside out. And the Supreme Court, and now the red states say, too bad for you. You carried that baby to term. We're going to charge you with murder. I mean, it's just untenable. On break, Gordon said, probably my privilege speaking, white privilege. It is a thing. I've used it myself. Knowingly and on purposefully. For myself and other people. Probably my privilege speaking, but whenever I would tell an employee, subway employee, MTA employee, I believe, that the turnstile to get into the subway was giving my card a hard time, and just like that, they let me in. And that has been my experience as well. Now, here's the problem. Machines can do the work. They're in the process of replacing us with machines. And now subway stations don't have subway attendants anymore. Maybe one or two do, but most of them don't. And which is why they probably have all these undercover cops, because people are jumping the turnstiles and nobody can do anything about it. And one of the main reasons they don't need people doing token booths anymore, you do it if you have a problem with your card, you have to send it through the mail. And someone takes a look at it and either sends you a new card or just ignores you. They're implementing this Omni thing. It's a card you can fill. It's an app you have on your phone, on your iPhone. It's the transit part of the Apple Wallet. And you can have it on your watch. Every day, Janet goes to work, taps her Apple Watch on the Omni thing on the subway, and goes right in. It is currently paper fare, so because she's now telecommuting, it doesn't make sense to have a subscription, unlimited subscription like she used to have. And they don't even have that unlimited subscription yet, I believe, on the Omni system. But it's contactless payment for your subway rides, and it's really super terrific. All you do is tap and go, and it's relatively quick. There are YouTube videos of a guy with his phone, walks right up to the turnstile, taps it, and goes in. Now, if you've ever... Tokens work better than those cards. I was in New York when he still had tokens. You put a token in, he went through the turnstile, it was fantastic. Now you had these swipe cards for 15 years. And you'd swipe and swipe and swipe and not can't go through, could not read your card, bent card. So they know those cards are not working anymore. So now they have cards you can use and fill and tap. And it's amazing stuff. It's terrific, terrific technology. Tap your smart device. Hey, set up your digital wallet to tap your smart device. Or your wearable at an Omni reader. No need to do anything in advance. Super, super friendly. Say hello to the weekly fare cap. Tap and go with peace of mind. You will not pay more than $33 in total fares between Monday and Sunday, no matter how many rides you take. It's like a 7-day unlimited ride pass, but without the upfront cost. Well, that's fabulous. That's new. That was not there when we first started using this. And one amazing thing is if you happen to lose your credit card, like with American Express, and it's registered in your Apple iPhone, and you lose your card and it's not stolen, and you report to American Express, they instantly replace it with a new one in your Apple Wallet. So let's say you're stranded somewhere, you're tapping your watch to get in, but you lost your card. So you talk to American Express, they update your card on your iPhone instantly, and you can tap until you get your new card in the mail. Scary, but wonderful. And this Omni thing is supposed to be coming to the Path system as well, so you can just tap, tap, and tap, and tap until you're tapped out. I love it. I think it's great. But the downside is you don't have people in the booths anymore. They're gone. So late night, alone on the platform, no police, maybe another person or two. There are no places to call for help. Getting to be a little scary. Speaking of scary, in The Gothamist, which is a wonderful online magazine that talks about life in New York City, the busker's dilemma, what's allowed and not allowed for subway performers. And busker is an old term for the 1930s of people who would go out on the street and busk. They would dance, they would sing, and they would take off their hat and say, please give me money, donations. So now they call them street performers or subway performers. And you see this a lot, especially in big stations. In Queens, there are a lot of these subways performers because there are giant, long tunnels that people are forced to walk through. And so you have a lot of opportunities to set up in a little place like this, play some music for people who are very worn out and tired, and maybe make a little bit of money. So it's really kind of terrific, and you're protected from the weather and the rain, and if you have portable stuff with you and radios, or some even have amplified microphones, you can make some money. However, some subway performers are reevaluating their venue of choice after a video of the Dancing is Happiness saxophonist getting arrested at the 34th Street Herald Square station went viral earlier this week. And here is that story. I think it was 4 police officers to arrest this one guy playing a saxophone. Everybody knows him. Everybody loves him. No one could really figure out why they were arresting him. He was in the wrong place. They were saying he had to have some kind of license, which he didn't need to have. Oh, they say 6 police officers. Oh, boy. And people were very upset and outraged. And here's some video. We'll see from Instagram. I hope is there sound? I hope there's no sound. If there's sound, I have to stop it. Oh, it looks like there's sound. Maybe there's no sound. So people are very upset by how rough they were with this guy because people who know him see him every day and know he's one of the nicest guys out there. So why arrest him like this? Why treat him like this? What did he do to you? So I hope this will make the video on demand. If not, you'll never know what you missed. So that's what happened. It says he's seen that guy. Yeah, he's pretty well known. $4.8 million views. That's a good thing. That's the good power of social media. Oh, so back to the Gothamist. So, I don't want to be down there again, said 20-year-old Hicks, who has been playing his saxophone throughout the system periodically since he was 16. Seeing the video was sickening. So here is where it gets very interesting, where Gothamist answers some questions. Do I need a permit to perform in the New York City subway? No, is the answer. Now, isn't that interesting? Every musician has the legal right to perform in the subway stations, according to the MTA's website and court rulings. Even with New York City's rich history of musicians coming up through the busking in the subways, the practice was still illegal until the 1980s. The People versus Manning case of 1985 was the first to provide First and 14th Amendment protections to subway performers in New York City. That's a beautiful thing. According to court documents, a folk guitarist, Roger Manning, was given a summons for playing on the platform of the BMT line at 59th Street in Lexington, which is a very shoo-shoo expensive neighborhood. Manning challenged the ticket and won in court. Gordon says, I wonder how many people are going to start coming prepared with printed copies of these court documents showing their legal rights. Well, that's a problem. Because the police don't care. If they've been given some kind of mandate, they're going to take you. As Judge Millian says on the People's Court, you can beat the rap, but you can't beat the ride. 63rd and Lex is such an amazing station now, Gordon says. Yeah, interesting how things change. And if you happen to carry a pocket knife in New York City, anything 3 inches in length for a blade or smaller is supposed to be fine. Gordon also says it only took close to a decade to make it look that good. Progress is painful and slow. And sometimes police officers in New York City, if they think you're suspicious, will ask you, or if they're being rough, will rough you up to see if you have a pocket knife on you, because they're really not legal. And if it's a gravity knife, you're in big trouble. And if you have a nice knife, it's not a gravity knife, but they can make any knife a gravity knife just by flicking their wrist hard and making it look like a gravity knife, like a switchblade. And if you have a nice one, then they have a conversation with you. And they say, well, you have this knife. It's not 3 inches, it's smaller, but it's a gravity knife. So it's technically a switchblade. So you can either come with me and we'll process you, go to court, fine you, or I can just keep your knife and you can be on your way. And what would you do? Gordon says, when I was a kid, I had a switch comb. Those are fun. It looks like a switchblade. Flick it open and it starts combing. Yeah. Now, they might shoot you in New York if you tried that. Hey, bang. Wait a minute, I'm trying to comb my hair. So there are a lot of people in New York City who lose beautiful, expensive pocket knives. Some can be $600, $800 to police officers who want your knife. And there are some people who try to fight back, who say, hey, take my knife, take me in, I'll win, I will fight you. And the police officer says, okay, great, let's go. So they take him in, book him, goes to court. Is it a gravity knife, not a gravity knife? Person wins, says, I want my knife back. And they say, we don't know where it is. It's missing. And one guy actually told that story and then went into a cop bar 2 weeks later after he won his trial. Found the cop using his knife, his pocket knife, that he's supposed to be given back, that they said was lost, to cut his steak at the cop bar. The reason why some performers and police officers may be under the impression that permits are needed is because the MTA has a specific program, Music Under New York, which was started in 1985 after the court decision. Muni holds auditions, gives performers an orientation on safety protocol, and hands out pink banners to their selected artists for display while they are in the subway. The banner is not a permit, but it can play a role in the signaling to police or MTA workers that these performers have a stamp of approval. Advocacy groups like Busk New York have criticized the banners for making performers without them feel more targeted by police. Very interesting. I had no idea about any of this. If a non-Muni performer is scheduled to play in an area where another performer is set up, the Muni-approved artist does have the permitted right to that area based on their scheduled time. That sounds like it's an approval to me. Where can't I perform? This makes me laugh because this is where you see everybody. Performing inside a subway car is prohibited. Now, if the cops were in the subway cars with you, it would be great, but they're not. They don't want to go into the subway car. Performing in a subway car is prohibited, according to the MTA's rule of conduct. Showtimers, doo-woppers, guitarists, all technically not allowed in the cars. If they step out onto the platform, then yes, they're allowed to perform there. But here is where throwing a tape measure into your guitar case could come in handy. Buskers are not permitted within 25 feet of a station booth. Fewer than 50 feet from an authority, a tower, or office is not allowed. Don't set up in front of elevators, escalators, or stairs, even though they do make for a fantastic way to dramatize a ballad or a guitar solo. Any place where a performer could be interpreted as impeding transit services or the movement of passengers is prohibited. And don't go in maintenance or construction areas. Well, those are loose enough that any police officer can say you're impeding traffic. The subways are very crowded. Performers say that being up against a wall, okay, like this one, is normally the safest place to be. Very interesting. I don't know why. I guess because if you're standing in front of it, you're not impeding anybody from getting to the train because they have to go around the wall thing. So it's the wall that's impeding them and not you. Can I use a speaker to perform? One attorney says no. They're technically allowed, but not on platforms in the subway. But acoustic music is fine. Speakers cannot be excessively loud or be used during public service announcements. There are also volume restrictions. Any sound in excess of 85 dBA on the A-weighted scale measured at 5 feet from the source. Yeah. Any police officer is going to say, that's too loud, you're in violation. No, I'm not. Yes, you are. No, I'm not. Who will win that conversation? You won't win. You can beat the rap, but you can't beat the ride. Can I ask for money? Explicitly panhandling is not allowed. But peppering a guitar case or a hat with some dollars is allowed. You cannot sell CDs, although it's become less of an issue in the streaming era. Handing out promotional goods or materials like a T-shirt is also a no-no. That's interesting. I wonder why that is not allowed. Now, what do I do if I'm stopped? And here we go. Even if you are in the right, under the MTA's rule of conduct and fines, anyone in the subway system has to comply with directives from any police officer, peace officer, or employee of the authority or the MTA acting within the scope of the employment, which means anybody can tell you to knock it off. This means moving performance locations or giving identification. Attorneys say performers should always comply, especially on the subway platform where death or injury can occur. But document everything, one attorney said, as there are strong legal precedents for subway performers successfully suing. Yeah. Police tells you to move. You take out your iPhone and start recording them for documentation purposes. It's not going to go well for you. So that's the story. Be careful out there if you want to be a performer in New York City. It's not easy, and there are lots of barriers. And now we're taking a final blood pressure break. Returning in a moment. And we're back from break on Bowles TV, BOLES.TV. I'm David Bowles, and hey, we are here Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Eastern. And we were talking about the police and New York City subways, and one of the first shows I did on this live stream 6, 7, 8 months ago was showing you my knife collection. And I have all kinds of different knives over the years. It took like an hour and a half, but it was a lot of fun. And I told my story about gravity knives. Not affected me, but it was an interesting story that I'm going to share with you again now about the New York City Police Department and how they confiscate knives. Now, with the new gun ruling from the Supreme Court, guns are going to be everywhere. AR-15s, oh, not in the subway. Okay, right, sure. And you're going to see police officers, undercover FedEx guys going up and saying, show me your gun. It's dangerous enough that they say, show me your knife. Show me your gun. Oh, I'll show you my gun. Look out. So I'll show you a couple of my favorite knives. This is one of my ultimate favorites. Very tiny, Benchmade, right? And you get it because it's just this. You can see it's a little dirty from opening boxes, but this hasn't been cleaned. But it's really a delightful knife. Very small, very compact. Get the grime off of it, please. Thank you. Gugon. This is a wonderful carbon fiber knife that has some delicious Benchmade again. I love Benchmade knives, as you'll see. Used to be Kershaw, onion knives. Beautiful knives. Here's another one with the same kind of beautiful raindrop flow. A little different. A lot of focus. A little seltzer down your pants. This is my all-time favorite knife. This is my Benchmade Valet, which is a gold knife, meaning as in gold label. And you're trying to think of the term gold label and you're opening your knife and you cut your finger. This rarely happens to me. I try to be so much more cautious. But this is my gold valet that now has my blood on it, which is, of course, the mark of a very stupid person. Hey! Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Eastern. Don't be like me. It's very sharp. It's my favorite knife. Is it uncouth for me to lick my finger? Probably. This is another Benchmade knife. Titanium with some kind of a walnut insert, yeah? Carefully open, all right? Also has a little goo on it from opening things. That's what knives are for. So this is what happens. The police in New York City confiscate your knife. And you want it back, right? And these are expensive knives, some of these. The rule is, take a cheap knife on a train, but people who collect knives don't want their cheap knives, they want their nice knives. You want your knife back, you have to go to court. And the police have your knife. And these police officers are trained, Mr. Attorney, I finger hurts. How to show that the knife is a dangerous knife, even if it's under the 3-inch mandate. If it's a gravity knife, now they used to call them switchblades, but switchblades are knives that go like this, usually and come out zing like this, spring-loaded, right? Zing. Well, nobody makes those anymore. Nobody wants them because they are outlawed pretty much everywhere in the world. In the United States. So they changed the terminology to be gravity knife. Meaning that if gravity can open the knife, then it's a gravity knife and you're in trouble. Now, a gravity knife is a knife where you flick it open and it's considered to be dangerous. A regular knife, according to the NYPD, is a knife you have to use 2 hands to open like this. Well, any folding knife, those of us in the knife community, can be made into a gravity knife, even though it's not. Gravity knives just open up on their own. And they do this. This is the locking mechanism right here on this Benchmade knife, right? Okay, you pull this back, so it's locked. See, I can't close it, right? And so to unlock it, you pull this back, and then it folds back down. Golden says, so your folding knife is not dangerous? Your finger says otherwise. I'm going to pretend I didn't read that. I have no comment. So this is what the police do with your beautiful knife. See, like this. This is not a gravity knife. A gravity knife, if it were truly a gravity knife, you would go like this and it would open. And some people have very nicely oiled knives where the action is good. So what the police do is they hold down this lock. They pull it down, right? And they practice this in the hallway before they go to court because they have your knife. And they make it into a gravity knife because it's unlocked. Oh, it's a gravity knife. And then if you have a good lawyer, you say, you're unlocking the lock that locks the knife in place. You're making it a gravity knife because of the way you're holding the knife. No. Gravity knife. Switchblade, see? That's what it is. Where normally, so that's the game. And you lose and they keep your knife. And use it to cut their steak at the bar 2 weeks later. I'm going to have to go back and edit this somehow and figure out how not to show my finger. Gordon says, what is the practical need for the knife? Well, that's an interesting question. For me, I don't have a practical need to carry a knife with me everywhere. But if you grow up in the Midwest, not for everybody, you use a knife for everything. You use a knife to cut an apple. You use a knife to whittle something out of a tree limb. You use a knife to open your mail. You use a knife to open a box. That's why I use most of my knives first to open my boxes. And I should clean them better. But to have a knife in the real world, I don't see the need for it, but there are people who claim there are needs. And there are people who loan their knives to people and they use them as pry bars or to use them as screwdrivers and they give them back and they're all chipped and ruined. So the rule is you never loan your knife to anyone. You say, you need something opened? I'll open it for you. You need something whittled? You want to share an apple? I will cut it for you, but I'm not giving you my knife. Because you quickly learn that people who don't know anything about knives don't care. And there are odder people who do use their pocket knives to eat. Gordon says, hey, fun fact, El Beyonce 2 sent me another YouTube link. The video was also not viewable in the United States de Americano. Yeah, that's a problem. I thought I would hear from El Beyonce 2 on our Discord server, or somehow, some way. Didn't happen. But I'm glad that El Beyonce 2, male or female, was in touch with you today or yesterday. I'm glad. And I'm glad you checked it out to see if we could somehow figure out a way to celebrate it, but I guess we can't. So it's a good question. What are you going to do with a knife? Now, there are generations of people who always have a pocket knife with them. And usually they're small. I stepped on one before I came in here. It was very small. But my really nice knife is this knife. Oh, that's not it. This is my bug-out knife. Where's my really nice knife? My Shirogorov, my Russian-made knife. Well, it was some here. This is the bug-out knife, which is very cheap. Everybody loves it. It comes with a plastic scale, they call them. And then you can buy titanium scales at a low price and put them on yourself. And it is a challenge to try to get the scale to fit, because these knives are very particular and very well made, which means you know how to put them together, because they're very tightly consequenced if you don't do it right. Like my grandfather had a little pocket knife, used it for everything. Used it to pick a lock, used it to carve an apple, sometimes used it as a butter knife if he didn't have one nearby. And people who carry knives, pocket knives, are very eager to offer it to be used. I'm not one of those people. But if you say in a room full of people, does anybody have a knife to open this box? Someone's going to leap forward and say, yes, I have a knife. Because you feel like you're being functional. And in my original thing, where I did not cut myself, talking about my pocket knives, we talked about the old rule of the street. And that rule is this: knives are very dangerous. Gordon says, am I the only one who whips out keys to open boxes? Yes, we are. It's a good idea, though. The rule of knives on the street is this: run from a knife, charge a gun. Now, that's a New York City rule. It's probably not applicable very much in New York, in Lincoln, Nebraska versus New York City. But the idea is this: a knife is very dangerous, and people think they can defeat a knife. And they cannot. You cannot beat a knife. A knife will always, if you challenge it, the person who's holding it, will kill you. And it's easy to protect yourself. Someone's robbing you, someone wants to get into a knife fight with you, turn around, run the other way. And the rule on the street is, in the knife community, that you never hold a knife like this if you're going to fight, but we're not going to fight. You always hold it like this. Now that's a weapon. You have this, and you have this. And you have to be very careful. And when I demonstrated this, I did not cut myself. But if you are in a position where you cannot get away from a knife, you've been cornered, you must do the one thing that will hurt you but will not kill you. And that is, you have to find a way to grab the blade. That's the only way you're going to survive. And that person is going to pull this out and cut you, maybe even cut off a finger. But you must grab a hold of the blade and find a way to get out of there as fast as you can. Because if you're holding the blade, it cannot cut you, it cannot stab you, it cannot hurt you. But if you're just using your hands, or if you have a knife, there's no saying, two people in a knife fight, one of them will end up dead. Because now that's become a challenge. Now, the thing with the gun is, the other interesting thing is, if someone comes at you with a gun to rob you or to hurt you, and they're in close proximity to you, you charge the gun. You try to take the gun, grab the gun. You don't run from a gun, because you turn around and run the other way, they're going to shoot you in the back. Your chances of survival in the mythology of New York street life is you charge a gun to try to not necessarily disarm the person, but to move the gun away from you at every cost. And that usually involves grabbing the wrist of the person who is holding the gun, and then somehow the gun itself. But the best thing is, if you get robbed, you get stuck up, just go along with it. Some people carry two wallets, a fake wallet for getting held up and a real wallet. Or if they want your keys to your car or your money, and they're here and you're here, you say, I'll give you whatever you want, car keys, and you throw it that way so it goes over their head very far, and they have to turn around, turn their back to you, and go and get the money or your keys, and you go that way as fast as you can, even if they have a gun. But if you're cornered and it's you or them, those are the rules. You have to get away from the knife. And that's why they're so dangerous. Commissioner Gordon says, my late father of blessed memory gave me a fake wallet to use for such occasions. That's very smart. I like that very much. Now, Gordon, are you required to say something like that of blessed memory? I only ask you because I noticed Jake Tapper on CNN and Wolf Blitzer on CNN, both who are strict Jewish people, always say when talking about someone who dies, and may their memory be a blessing, which I find very touching and wonderful as part of a news story. And now you just kind of said the same thing. A blessed memory. Is that out of respect? Is that a requirement? What is the rule if there is one? If there's no rule, okay. I have stopped bleeding, by the way. I don't even know if I'll need new skin for this. Gordon says I wouldn't say it's a requirement, but it's a very important thing we say out of respect. Well, there you go. Very good. I like it very much. May the memory be a blessing. It's very nice. Well, I feel like we didn't get to anything we were planning to talk about today, and I felt like we talked about everything that needed to be talked about, which is fabulous. Which is the daring do of doing a live show. You never know where you're going to go or what's going to happen. It's all a big surprise. I love it. So if you have any questions or comments, you can email me, David@Bowles.tv. You can super follow on Twitter, private conversations at David Bowles. On Facebook, hey, Beta, NFT, hey. We are regular old Bowles. Oh, yes, I love this. Commissioner Gordon, signing off from Winter Park, says, thanks for having us. And I get to reply with Stevie, streaming from the Rajay Monopolis. See you in a day or two. On Instagram, we are Bowles Books. On the TikTok, we are Bowles TV. And if you're interested in joining us on our Discord server, El Beyonce 2, who is registered and there, says nothing. Maybe El Beyonce 2 will change his or her mind and show up. You never know. So I thank you for being here. I hope you have a wonderful nap, a good wake up, and a fantastic sleep. And when ye shall awaken, may your soul be filled with joy and every memory be a blessing. I'll see you tomorrow.